Hello guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. On today's video we're going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful asymmetrical maxi dress. If that sounds like something you're interested in learning, then keep on watching and let us get right into the video. So I've gone ahead to roll out the lines. As you can see, I'm going to place my tape now so you see the measurements. My bust point is 11 inches, my under bust is 13.5, my waist is 17 inches, and my hip line is 25 inches. And I added 5 inches after my hip line for us to be able to create that asymmetrical shape we have at the bottom. Now I'm marking out my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and from there I'm going to come down by 1 inch for our slant, and then I'm going to mark my armhole opening, which is 7.5 inches, and roll out a straight line. After rolling out the straight line, you want to go ahead to roll out another line on this point here, the way you see me doing right now. Next, we're going to create our neckline. I'm coming out on this point by 3.75 inches because I'm trying to create sort of like a canoe neckline, and then we're going to come down by 3 inches and then curve this out. I didn't really like the shape I got after curving this out, so I later went ahead to re-edit the neckline. So this is basically what we have for now, and then we're going to slant our shoulder like this. So like I said earlier, we're going to still work on the neckline. Now on this chest area, I'm going to mark my bust measurements divided by 4, and then I'm going to mark it out. After marking it out, we're going to use our curve to create our armhole. Next, I'm going to go ahead to mark my waist measurements divided by 4, and I'm going to mark it on my waistline here. And then we're going to mark our hip measurements divided by 4 and mark it on the hip line. After marking this out, you want to go ahead to roll out the lines so the measurements from this point meet each other all the way to the bottom part. Now after curving this out, at this point here, I'm just going to curve out that part to eliminate any harsh lines we have there. Now on our bust point line, which is this point here, we're going to go ahead to mark our nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. For me, that is 4 inches. I'm marking 4 inches on that point, and then we want to go ahead to subtract the difference of our shoulder to waist measurement for the front and the shoulder to waist measurement for the back. For me, when I subtract the front from the back, what I have is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 1.5 inch on this point here. From my bust point to that point, I marked 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead to rule this out to meet that nipple to nipple measurement point we created, and then I'm going to rule a straight line the way you see me doing right now. So we've gone ahead to create our bust dart, our side dart rather, and this is what we have. Now I'm going to go ahead to extend the hip line all the way down to the 5 inches we created for the bottom part for our slanting to create that asymmetrical shape. And then I'm just going to work on the neckline the way I said I would do earlier. So I'm just recurving out the neckline to the desired shape that I want, and then we're also going to trace out the remaining part of the pattern so you see this very well. So this is what the pattern is looking like. We're going to go ahead to cut this out now. So before you cut, you want to go ahead to close up the dart we have at this point here. So I'm just going to close it up, and then after closing this up, you would see that the measurement at that side doesn't really match as much. So we want to go ahead to retrace that point the way you see me doing right now. I'm just going to go ahead to retrace that part before I go ahead to cut it out. So I'm going to place it like this. I'm going to close the dart, and then I'm going to cut out the sides here. So this is what the front pattern is looking like. We're going to go ahead to cut out the back pattern. So for the back, you can see that we've gone ahead to retrace out all our lines, and I also went ahead to add our zipper allowance at this point here. So I'm going to just go ahead to label that part as our zipper allowance. So we basically have the lines the same way we have it for the front. The only difference is our waistline is different from the waistline for the front, because our shoulder to waistline for the back is 15.5 inches, while the shoulder to waistline for the front is 17 inches because of the our bust at the front. So this is what we have. Aside from that, every other thing is the same. Now I'm going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4 on this point, and then on the waistline, our waist measurement divided by 4, our hip measurement also divided by 4. Basically the same thing we did for the front. I'm just going to mark that out, and then we want to go ahead to rule everything out, making sure that all the lines are accurate. So I won't be adding any dart for this particular dress. This is going to be optional depending on what you like. You might choose to add a dart, also depending on the size of the person. So now at this point, I'm going in by 3.75, and then I'm coming down by 1 inch. So after marking that out, we are going to go ahead to curve this out to meet each other to create our neckline, and then we're going to slant this from that point we went down by. So this is what we have for the back. Now we're also going to adjust the sides here. So I'm coming in on that point here by 1/2 inch to eliminate bulging. So after going in by 1/2 inch, I'm going to trace this out, as you can see me doing right now. Next, on this waistline area here, I'm going to go ahead to take down 1/2 inch at this point, also to eliminate any bulging as well, and I'm going to roll this back into our measurement. So we're going to go ahead to just close up that part and tape it down. Now I'm just placing my curve at that point there to create our armhole. So guys, that is all for the drafting of the back piece. We're going to go ahead to cut this out. After cutting out the front and back pattern pieces, we want to go ahead to cut this on fabric. So guys, these are the fabrics I'm working with for this tutorial. I'm working with 1 yard of black crepe, and then for this fabric here, I'm working with 3 yards of this. So I went ahead to place our pattern on the fabric, pinning everything down, and you can see I already went ahead to mark out our seam allowances. I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out. So guys, you want to make sure you're adding in 1/2 inch allowance at the shoulder area and at the bottom as well, so you can just see the way I'm cutting mine out. So we've gone ahead to cut all the fabric pieces out, and you can see I also went ahead to cut out the dart for the pattern, and I'm placing this on the main fabric piece like this, just aligning everything in place. And then we're going to trace out our dart for the sides the way you see me doing right now. This is going to be very easy for you to just hold it and just start sewing. So I'm just going to do that for all the pieces, and you can see that I've gone ahead to do this for the other side. Now we're just going to hold the sides like this, and then we're going to sew our dart. We want to go ahead to do that for the fabric piece and the lining piece as well. So we're going to go ahead to do that right now. So we've gone ahead to sew the darts at the sides, and you can see what we have right now. We also went ahead to do the same thing for the lining piece, and this is what we have. You can go ahead to trim out the excess we have at the sides, or you can leave it as it is and just give it a good press so it sits really well, or you can just cut out the excess dart and then open up the seam and then give it a good press. And then you want to place the fabric and the lining piece like this, right sides facing each other, and then stitch along the neckline like this. You also want to stitch along the armhole area on both sides, and then just take it all the way down following the shape of the dress we have there. So you can see that I'm going ahead to trim out the excess. We're going to go ahead to open up the seams and give this a good press before we go ahead to sew up the sides. For the back piece, you can see we have 4 pieces right here, 2 for the main fabric piece and then 2 lining piece as well. Now we're going to take out one of each and then place the fabric and the lining piece right sides facing each other and sew along the neckline all the way down. And then on this side we're going to follow the armhole area and then stitch this all the way down the way we have it here. Now I'm going to go ahead to do that, and then this is what we have. You can see that after sewing all the pieces together, I went ahead to give it a good press. Now we want to go ahead to open this up so we can join the shoulders together. And to do that, I'm going to take both the front and the back piece. We're going to place this right sides facing each other, and we're going to hold the shoulders area together so they align very well. And then from the inner part of the of the front piece, you want to go ahead to insert the back piece inside the way you see me doing right now. We're going to insert the shoulder part of the back inside of the front piece and align the shoulders together very well. So you want to go ahead to take your time to hold this very well, making sure that it is equal on the inside the way you see me doing right now. And then after holding that out, you want to go ahead to stitch along the sides by 1/2 inch. I'm going to go ahead to take both sides of our shoulder, and then we're going to take this to the machine to sew by 1/2 inch, and then we're going to come back to show you. So guys, we've gone ahead to sew the shoulders, and if you look closely, I went ahead to trim out the excess I had at the top. Now we're going to bring this out, and you can see what we have after stitching both sides. Next, we want to work on our back piece. You can see that I lined my back piece right sides facing each other together, and you can also see that I've gone ahead to mark out my zipper allowance. Now I'm going to go ahead to pin this all the way down so we can cut out the shape we want for the bottom part of our dress. After securing this in place with our pins, we're going to flip this over and then focus on the front part of our dress. So I'm going to take the front piece and we're going to flip this over to the wrong side. Now on the wrong side, we're going to create the asymmetrical shape on the left side of the dress. So from this left side here, I'm going to come up by 5.5 inches, and we're going to mark out 5.5 inch on the top like this. After marking out 5.5 inch, we're going to curve this all the way back down just to create that asymmetrical shape. You can use 6 or 7 inches, but for me, I'm okay with 5.5 inches. So this is what the curve is looking like. We want to move on to cut this out. After cutting out the front, we're going to place this right sides facing each other with the back, and then we're going to use the shape we cut out for the front to cut out the back as well. Now we've gone ahead to cut out the shape we need for the bottom part, and we want to decide how wide we want the opening of our zipper to be. I'm going to go ahead to place my tape and just figure out where I want the zipper to start, and I decided I wanted it to start from this point here. So I'm going to go ahead to, from that point, we're going to go ahead to stitch this all the way down, and then we're going to fix in our zipper. So I'm going to do that now. So I've gone ahead to add in the zipper, and this is what it looks like. Next, what we want to do is flip this over to the wrong side to join the sides, and as you can see, I've gone ahead to add my body measurements divided by 2. So what we want to do is make sure we align everything properly, make sure everything is sitting in place, and just stitch along the sides following the shape of the measurements we created. So after joining the sides, this is what we have. This is what the upper bodice is looking like. Now we're going to move on to bring in the pattern fabric for the lower part of the dress. So this is the pattern fabric. I'm also going to bring my tape so we can measure the pattern fabric. So the top part of the dress is 25 inches, and we want this to be really long. So from that 25 inches mark, I'm going to place my tape at that point and then measure it all the way down. You can cut this to your desired length depending on what you have, but for me, what I have right here is okay with me. So because I want mine to be really long to cover my feet, I made mine about 64 inches, but you can do yours depending on the length you'd like. I also went ahead to run loose stitches along the top part, as you can see. Now we're going to go ahead to just create gathers, but before we do that, we want to bring in our upper bodice, and then we want to go ahead to use our tape to take the measurement around the lower parts. So what I had here after taking the measurement was 22.5 inches. Adding the back and the front is going to give us 45 inches. So that is what I went ahead to use to create the gathers. So I went ahead to create the gathers, and this is about 3 yards of fabric. I gathered this till we got 45 inches. So I've gone ahead to gather this, and what I have here is 45 inches. Now what we want to do is flip this over to the wrong side to just close up that opening we have there. So we want to go ahead to hold the edges and then stitch this by half of an inch all the way down. So we're going to sew this along this side all the way down by half of an inch. So I've gone ahead to close up the sides. As you can see, this is what we have right now. We want to go ahead to open this up to bring in the upper part of our dress. So now I'm just going to bring in the upper part of my dress, and we're going to place them right sides facing each other the way you see me doing. And from the midpoint at the back where we have our zipper, we're going to use that as a guide and place that with the joining we have at the bottom part, and we're just going to start pinning this all around. You want to make sure you open up the side seams when you're pinning this down. So I'm done securing this in place, and now we want to go ahead to sew this all around by 1/2 inch. So we're just going to take this to the machine to sew by 1/2 inch all the way around, and we're done with our dress. So guys, after attaching the gathers, this is what we have. If you enjoyed watching this video, you're also going to love watching this one right here, so you can go check that out. And if you found this video helpful, do not forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, and I will see you guys on the next one.